I'm Travis Bader, and this is the Silvercore podcast. Silvercore has been providing its members with the skills and knowledge necessary to be confident and proficient in the outdoors for over 20 years, and we make it easier for people to deepen their connection to the natural world. If you enjoy the positive and educational content we provide, please let others know by sharing, commenting, and following so that you can join in on everything that Silvercore stands for. If you'd like to learn more about becoming a member of the Silvercore Club and community, visit our website at silvercore.ca. So a while back, I was recording a podcast with Sean Taylor, episode number 85, out at his house in Roslyn. And we wrap it all up, and he says, "Have you met my buddy Matt Jenkins? You've got to talk with this guy." And then again, talking with Steve Wilson in episode 120. And he's talking about this Matt Jenkins guy. You got to talk with him. He loves to hunt. He's such a great guy. And I've heard your name before, and I've seen you on different internet forums, but we never had the opportunity to meet up until, well, a little bit ago. So why don't I just start off here? Welcome back to the Silvercore podcast, Matt Jenkins.
I'm super happy to be back. Thank you.
Well, Bretta was looking for a place to run a program during OPEC, and I guess that's the law enforcement show and tell, big trade show type thing for the gun industry and security type companies. And so Bretta, Stoger, Shani reaches out and says, "Trav, we're looking for a range. We want a range where we can run and XYZ. We got full auto, we got suppressors, we got all the cool kit and toys." And so I said, "Yeah, the Range Langley. That's your ticket. You got to check out the Range Langley. They're perfectly set up for it." Like, no. We want an outdoor range, and they got all these different requirements. I said, no. You want the Range Langley, and here's why. Anyways, they looked at it. They said, okay, fair enough. You're right. That's the place to go. I'm there. I show up. I say hi to everybody and do a quick post on social media. And like literally, I post this thing up. I have a picture, and ding, there's Matt Jenkins. He says, "Okay, I'm in. Can I come? What's up?" I said, "Yeah, you just got to have a badge," which you do, and you're in there. So that was the first time we actually got to meet face to face, and really glad I was able to get to meet you. That's pretty cool. And then what happened?
We decided to sit down and report a podcast, and as I do, you get a case of the cold feet, and you start thinking about what you said and what you didn't say, and all of a sudden, like, ooh, I'm overthinking this one, and I think we got to do it again.
Well, I thought it was a really good podcast. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of information in there, but when you said pull the plug, I talked to the social team. I'm like, yeah, we're pulling the plug. And then later on, you're like, I really wish I was on this one course and some great information in there, and I really wanted to get that information across. And so I said, great. My job here is to portray the best possible you. And if you weren't happy with the last one, even though I thought it was pretty good, you did a pretty damn good job.
I appreciate that. It of course, the immediate feeling goes to guilt because looking at the production value, and I don't know how much of the studio you can actually see in the YouTube, but it's a pretty impressive facility. And coming in for a couple hours and then having it scrubbed felt pretty bad.
You know what? This is all part of the process. And I was mentioned earlier. So Anthony Staziker, ex-SBS, co-founder of Through Dark. I think I'm actually... Oh, yeah, there you go.
Shameless plug.
Wearing a Through Dark shirt. Honestly, they fit. The last 30 or so podcasts, you'll notice I'm wearing their kit. Anyways, he's in the UK. We set the time. I'm up around 2:30 in the morning to record the podcast, drive out here, get myself all ready, doing jumping jacks. I got to be on. I can't be all groggy. And the time rolls around to record, and he doesn't show up. I'm like, oh, I missed it by an hour. I'm an hour early, so I wait another hour, and no, I'm actually a day early. So, okay, regroup again the next day. Get up, proper time. This time Anthony doesn't show up. So we regrouped again a couple days later, but that was a few mornings of getting up. But this is all part of doing a podcast, so it's all good. Yeah. And, shamelessly, so here's another plug. Coming up, let's see, when this will be coming out before Sachin Lati. He has a Night to Inspire.
Yes, he does.
He asked if I could give an 11-minute talk. And I said, sure. Yeah, I can give an 11-minute talk. I've got to figure something to talk about here. And he says, well, what if you talk about mental health and the outdoors and what all that means to you? So from my own selfish perspective, this is fantastic because I'm just going to be pumping you for information too and looking at your perspective, and I'll be using all of this to help create my talk, which in typical ADHD style, I have yet to begin.
I'll make sure I trademark everything I say before March 30th, and you'll be paying me for everything I say.
I love it. Are you going to be there?
No, I won't. I'll be back up in God's country in the Kootenays, not down in this, I don't know how to call the Lower Mainland anything positively and PG rated, but it's a place.
It's a place. You know what? When you get outside it for a little bit, like I grew up in Surrey. And I've heard all of the Surrey jokes, and everyone talks about Surrey. I'm like, what are you talking about? This place is fantastic. Surrey's the best, right? When I moved out of Surrey and I saw something a little different, I'm like, oh, okay, I get where they're coming from. I get where the jokes are coming from. Not that I'd disparage it in any way, but when you're in
Surrey.
Yeah. When you're in it, it's hard to see outside of it, right?
I grew up in Langley, and you know, when I went over to Surrey, you kind of get back to Langley, you just feel dirty. You feel dirty, and you got to go and take a shower.
I love it.
But no, it's good. Every time I had the opportunity to come back, moving out of the Lower Mainland was fantastic. It was a great opportunity, and being able to move for the job it made things really easy.
Yeah.
But I'd have to admit, I was driving around Fort Langley the other night. Beautiful weather, no traffic, and there is part of me that does miss living down here. And it's days like those. Okay, this is nice and nostalgic, but I'm not coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, there's something to be said for a few less people, a little bit easier access to the outdoors, or a lot easier access to the outdoors, and yeah, my head's clicking in that direction too. I mean, that would, we'll see. We'll see what comes in time.
Kootenays are nice this time of year.
Yeah, yes they are. So your background, you got into, I think you mentioned before, you're more of a gun guy than you are a hunter. And everyone that has introduced you to me describes you as a hunter, right?
I suppose that's the power of perceptions. Grew up in Virginia. I tell everybody how I ended up in BC. I just got lost on my way to Alaska. That's the short. That's me shortening that story. Yeah. But grew up shooting. Being that I grew up in the United States, it was shooting things like handguns and AK-47s and AR-15s. I actually had never touched a bolt-action rifle till I moved to Canada. Go figures.
Yeah.
Don't come from a family of hunters. About 16 years old, got into hunting through my still best friend. His dad really took me under his wing, and from our first trip in, I guess that would have been September youth season of 2007, the hook, line, and sinker. Okay. Everything from that point on really revolved around how do I do this, and yeah, the rest is history. But I still do consider myself more well versed in the firearms realm than the hunting realm. But again, perception is an interesting thing.
What kind of a hunt was it?
I was a mule deer hunt.
Okay.
Up in, I guess it would have been the north end of Region 8 off the Okanagan Connector, and I had no idea. I knew I was going 2 weeks before, so I'm buying hunting magazines, and I'm like, tips to shoot a whitetail. Okay, cool. Well, geez, a whitetail and a mule deer, that's got to be the same thing. If it works in the magazine, it's going to work where we're going. Hey, stupid. They're different species for a reason.
Sure, yeah.
And then a couple months later, did another hunt with Dan and his dad and his little brother, and we were lucky. We got back-to-back success.
Wow.
And was hooked.
What was it that hooked you?
I had always had an interest in it. Growing up in the States, the Sportsman's Channel, there was 15 versions of Wild TV down there, and they all had hunting content. And I always thought, I love being outdoors. I love firearms. This kind of seems like a good way to put it together. Although it was interesting, even from a young age, thinking about hunting. When I looked at the guys in the tree stands and the ground blinds, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Like I'm too ADD. I'll be going stir crazy, and a deer's going to walk in front of me, and I'm going to have no idea it's there because I'm going to be too busy, counting leaves on trees or something.
And what did you find?
I found that, we had it, honestly, we had it pretty cushy. We were in a camper in the back of the truck. We were cruising around on quads. It was a pretty cushy introduction to it.
Sure.
But yeah, the places hunting has taken me, the people it's introduced me to, it's second to none. I'm very hobby heavy, skiing, mountain biking, hunting, shooting. But if I had to strip all of those things away and be reduced to one passion, hunting would be obviously what reigns supreme. Getting into skiing and reintroducing myself to mountain biking really was something essentially to pass the time between, November or December in some cases, and then September again.
So you were out mountain biking today, weren't you, with Steve?
Yeah, I am physically abused.
Well, that's his bread and butter, right?
It is, and he was. I was quick to point out to him this morning as I was cursing and swearing and sweating that he's been riding all winter and I haven't touched my bike in 9 months. So I'll hang on to that little thing that it's not as. Hopefully, I'm not that bad all season, but it was awesome. And coming full circle back to Steve, he actually ran the mountain bike program when I was in high school. He was a teacher of mine, and the last time I rode the woodlot 19 years ago was with him and my best friend Dan, and then here we are 19 years later riding again, so life is funny.
He mentions you, or he alludes to you anyways. I don't think he used your name, but he talked about you in his TED Talk that he did.
He did, yep.
Yeah, that was a really good TED Talk. That was... maybe I should talk with him about my little 11-minute speech I got to put together, but he did a damn good job on that.
Phenomenal. I look at the TED Talk, and I remember talking to him prior, him asking me if he could use a kind of a very sort of an anonymized version of a connection with me. He did put my picture up there just without the name attached, and watching the final production. It's one thing to sit and have a back and forth conversation, but it's another thing to be standing in a box on a stage and have a basically turn what's in your head into a product, right? And have, little to no prompting capture that audience. So pretty wild. And yeah, it was very humbling to see that final product. And
how'd you feel?
A lot of gratitude, right? It's, I've had amazing connections with people my entire life, and it's phenomenal the impact that we can have on one another without, the smallest gesture can mean so much to other folks, and the fact that other people view me as having a phenomenal impact on them enough to use them on a TED Talk is beyond anything that I think could have done.
Isn't that funny how we can interact with people throughout our life and the little actions that we can make, and we don't even understand the impact that it's having on those around us, either through our example or through just like how I'm learning about you through Sean and through Steve and through other people, or directly. I had one person reach out, and he was telling me a little bit about what he does, and I looked over, and I think it was on his Instagram feed. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's got some neat mugs. He's got, and he puts out there, and I'll pick one of these things up. And he comes back and says, you're the first person to purchase a mug. And you have no idea how these little things can impact someone, is what he said to me. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Just taking the time to always be conscious of what we're doing. And I guess it's sort of a balancing act, because you don't want to always be thinking, well, what are people thinking about me, right?
It's exhausting.
Right, but in the same breath, you want to make sure you're always conducting yourself and comporting yourself in a way that you're not detracting from somebody's joy or their life. Then you're hopefully adding to their joy.
Yeah, and then the way, I look at situations is what can I do and what can I provide in terms of value to the connections I have, right? Whether it's a venture at work, right? What can I do to add value to this, unit I'm working with, or this program that I'm involved in? To what can I do to add value to the relationships I have with people, right? With friends and family. I don't know. Sometimes I miss the mark by a mile, but when thinking in terms of that, you certainly want to add something. You want to contribute. You don't want to be a cost. If you're a cost to something, you're in some cases doing it wrong. I mean, there's some things where you go into a situation knowing that you are going to be the beneficiary of it, but it certainly feels good to be, try to be the person providing something to others. And if it's a two-way street, then it just means that relationship or that connection's beneficial all across the board.
Yeah. It's one of these things that a giver will always find takers hanging around them, right? Yep. And you have to guard yourself against that. you definitely don't want to find yourself in a position where you're being viewed as a taker, and quite often a giver will look at that and they'll try and reciprocate. And like, just last time when we recorded, I was out with a friend of mine. Now, I went to school with his son, and I just spend more time with the father than I do with the son.
Yep.
And the son owns a number of restaurants throughout Vancouver, so we're going around checking out a bunch of these different places and ask for Luigi, Poorhouse, Carlino's, like a bunch of Italian. He's an Italian fellow, and brings me to one of their places. And the guy who's running the place comes up. She's like, "Oh, this is this thing, rum baba. I make these myself in house, and I want you to have it." And ends up giving me this thing, and so I find something else to purchase, and I basically pay for the price of the rum baba. And here I'm thinking, I don't want to be on the negative end of that exchange. And when we left there, my friend, he says, "Why'd you do that? Don't do that, Travis. He's trying to do something nice, right? And it looks bad on you. It looks bad on me." And so that's one of the areas where I have a difficult time navigating, because I never want to be on the negative side of that. I don't know. You like that? Is that? Or have you got it figured out?
When you know somebody well enough, there certainly is, a back and forth of, favors or knowledge, and you have that sort of, you're not keeping track. You want to help somebody. That they have something that they can provide to you, knowledge, or, I'll use Steve and me for example, right? The amount of knowledge he's pulled from my brain on the hunting and the firearms realm, couldn't put a price on it. Meanwhile, he's been wrenching on my bike all week. And, it's just one of those things. You surround yourself with people you can lean on, then it's what friends do for one another. But if it's a connection that isn't as deep, then, I feel compelled to pull my weight, per se.
So, talking with Steve, I definitely get the sense that there's more of a emotional and kind of spiritual connection that he's having with the outdoors and the hunting, that he's either grown on his own with your help, but I get more the sense it's something that you've assisted with in that process.
I think it's giving me entirely too much credit. He, Steve's a guy who, again, was a mentor of mine educationally, and also doing a lot with the outdoor ed programs back when I was in high school, and certainly a fellow that I looked up to because, he had all of his wilderness first aids. He had done trips to the Arctic Circle. He'd been, on the ice roads up north, led groups of kids and done a tremendous amount of experience in the backcountry. So all I did was kind of say, hey, you know what you're doing. Only difference is now is the purpose for you being in the outdoors is a little different. So here's how we're going to take the skills you have and apply them to something a little bit different. And now there was some teaching along the way. I'm not going to tell you how many years it took him to actually shoot a grouse with a 22 from 10 yards away, but we'll let him sweat over that now that I put it out into the world. But for the most part, when you have somebody who is switched on, knows what they're doing, and the skills are highly transferable, I didn't do much.
Tell me about that process. Because, a friend of mine recently, he's like talking to me about a few different things. He's a very intelligent individual. He's like, "Do you read much Nietzsche?" he says. I'm like, "Well, a bit, I've read a bit. How about Montesquieu, right? Or Schopenhauer?" I'm like, "No." Right? And he's like, "Oh, you really should, right?" And gives me some book recommendations. And I said, "Well, do they come with pictures?" They don't. And so, but Schopenhauer, by all accounts so far, what I'm reading, he seems to be pretty critical about hunting. He makes a statement about hunting, and he says, "The satisfaction of hunting lies in the process of the chase and the exercise of skill, rather than in the death of the animal. In this respect, the true hunter is more interested in the pursuit itself than in the final result."
Absolutely. I couldn't have put it any better than that. The amount of years I eat tag soup, or the amount of times when I'm out with somebody and I get more satisfaction over, helping them or assisting them. To me, it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, we are successful. I don't care who pulls the trigger. It's not a thing for me, right? So again, to help with that process has been phenomenal. And when I think back on the trips I've done all over BC, up north, the Kootenays, proximity to the Lower Mainland, some of the stories, the memories, and everything came from, the people I'm with, the places I am, rather than, what we're physically taking home from that trip or taking from that landscape. Of course, a tremendous bonus, and the pride you have when you are successful in that trip, you can't replace it. And that's where I think we, as hunters who are comfortable having difficult conversations, it's really important for us. And if you don't hunt, it's really hard to understand, because again, the classic adage of, well, how can you admire something if you're going to kill it? Well, obviously at face value, that seems like a very accurate statement, but really when you get into talking with people who are passionate about it, it's sort of, that's kind of the culmination of the effort you've put in, the preparation, the physical preparation. You can't just go walk up and down the hills without preparing your body. Otherwise, you're going to be a liability, or at the very least, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Where do you go? Access your kit, your equipment, finding those people who you can intrinsically trust, because there's lots of times I've been hunting, I'm like, this is terrible. This is a terrible experience, and I don't want to be where I am. I want to be sitting on a beach somewhere. That's a lie. I don't want to be sitting on a beach. I hate the beach. But I want to be anywhere when I am, when I'm cold and I'm wet and I'm tired, and all I see above me is mountains and false summits, and then when you're successful, it just really puts into perspective everything that you've done to get yourself to that point. And the amount of pride I take in how seriously I take the act of mentorship is colossal, right? If people are trusting me to give them those experiences or pass on those skills to them, it's not something that I take for granted, because it's 2024. The resources we have, arguably, in certain aspects, you can't replace a mentor to go out there with you. But let's be honest, right? Through your podcast, through good folks instructing hunter safety courses, through guys like Steve Vernella, there's so many ways you can learn these things, refine them on your own. But there's lots of ways you can do it without a lot of help. So the fact that people are still turning to me it's something that I don't take for granted.
No. Yeah, that mentorship program is something that is one of the most difficult pieces of the puzzle for most people.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's only so many podcasts you can listen to, only so many YouTube videos or books you can read. But to actually have somebody to kind of take you in and show you the ropes, to help you be successful, it can be dejecting. It can be discouraging.
Absolutely.
You go out there over and over again. For me, I've never made the animal my prize.
No.
Just like in business, I don't make money my prize. If I make money my prize, I'm always going to be chasing at it.
Yep.
If I make the enjoyment of what I'm doing and the pursuit of trying to provide excellence to the best of my ability or quality to the end user, money will be a natural byproduct of that. Just like in hunting, if I make the deepening of the connection, my connection with the natural environment, my end goal, the default of all of that will be I'll start learning where the animals are and when they are and how they're moving, and I will be successful in it. But I've never, ever left a hunt and been like, man, I wish I didn't go. Right?
Yep.
I could see if I had picked the wrong group and maybe some teammates to go out with, and it was a wrong selection. Thankfully, that's never happened to me. And time and effort goes into making sure we're very selective about those who we will go out, because it'll push you. It'll push you mentally and physically. And if you're already kind of seeing some ragged edges before you even get out there, they'll show through.
And not only that, too, the ethics piece, of course, being law-abiding, but, there's lots of ways where you can be compliant with, the Wildlife Act, the Firearms Act, and so forth, but you're skirting that gray area, making decisions that are just unethical, right? And I've always taken that pretty seriously. Realizing what's at stake, it seems like every time the regulations come out, we're losing a bit, and not to go down that rabbit hole, because that's a podcast in itself, but always being mindful of projecting that good professional image of somebody who knows what they're doing, who's somebody truly appreciates what they're doing, and somebody that can back up what they're doing with good points in a conversation with people who have a different viewpoint about hunting. It's important, and there are people that I've hunted with who I've watched make decisions, sometimes in front of me, or just sometimes through hearsay or stories from friends that I trust, and that is enough for me to say, nope, I'm good. I'll go with somebody else, right? You're not, my hunting with you is not worth me being associated with those behaviors.
You're talking about gray areas, and is there anyone really looking over my shoulder at the moment? I'm out in the woods, right? Is it? I don't know. What are the odds anything would happen, right? The second that sort of thinking starts to creep in anybody, you've got an issue.
Yep.
I think the best way to approach it is to mentally role play ahead of time what you do in different circumstances. And so when you're presented with it, you've already got a framework that you can kind of work with.
Yep.
I mean, I'll set an alarm for a waterfowl hunting. When the alarm goes off, there's no more shots. We'll hear shots half an hour to an hour after all of that. But there's a difference between being a hunter and being a poacher.
Yes.
And I know that if I were to take a shot after that, I wouldn't be feeling good about myself. No. I wouldn't want to tell my friends about, hey, look at this animal I've harvested, or
well, how could you?
Right. There's no story there, right? He just gotta And what's that worth to you? You gotta live with yourself for the rest of the time. And at the very least, there's that. On top of that, then there's your reputation, there's criminal charges and seizures and all the other things that go with it. It's just not worth it.
Maybe for some folks looking for views on YouTube, but that's certainly not for me.
Yeah, wasn't there a couple of those things recently?
Yes, some sort of recent thing in my brain I think that's applicable to, but I can't remember who and where.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things. There's pressure. People feel pressure, and they'll put it on themselves. They don't want to be coming back as unsuccessful.
Yep.
But and I think that's where Ranella kind of helped hit the nail on the head, and he tried to show the process and the pursuit rather than the end result. Because prior to this, I've never been a big watching hunting on TV type of person. And in fact, when Ranella came out, I'd never even heard of him for the longest time. And people kept bringing his name up. I'm like, who is this Italian person they keep talking about, right?
Meat Eater was the gateway drug for me.
Was it really?
Oh yeah. Now you look at my YouTube algorithm, and it's a rabbit hole. Yeah, that's my Saturday, not my Saturday and Sunday mornings. I work shift work, but per se, my weekend mornings off is spent with YouTube. Just if I can't do it, it's always interesting to watch the stories that other people have, and there's a lot of good content on there. But I'm pretty choosy in what I watch. It's got to be authentic. I don't like a lot of production value. I don't like if you've got a list of sponsors a mile long and there's more product shots than hunting, I'm probably not interested. But my favorite episode of Meat Eater was one where you didn't shoot anything. I'm fairly nostalgic. I like to go to the same places. I think it's really cool to reflect on memories I've made hunting in places year after year. And that particular episode of Meat Eater, I think it was back in season 5. He's talking about how he's been hunting the same basin with friends and family for decades. And so I kind of identified with it, right? And I remember a friend of mine saying, well, that episode was dumb. He didn't shoot anything. I'm like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, no, it's totally the point. And I think when people start connecting with that, they realize, maybe there's something a little bit deeper to all of this.
Yep.
Now, you were talking about being mentored and the people that you have mentored. What are you looking for when you're looking at somebody who wants to get mentored? Because there's a lot of people, and they come out and they say, you'll see them on the forums. Oh, I'm looking for a mentor. Can you tell me the best place to hunt? And can I just tag along with you in your honey hole? And they get ripped to shreds, right? So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about posting on these forums or introducing themselves to different groups, like this morning, I was, I'll save that one. You tell me.
Yeah.
Before my ADHD kicks in, what are you looking for in somebody to mentor?
I'm selfish with my time and my knowledge to a certain extent, and as much as I like to share knowledge on the forums and share things in controlled environments, if I'm out in a situation where there's a lot of variables I can't control, like hunting, if you're not somebody that I know who has an aptitude to do the right thing, who has the ability to be safe and be ethical, probably not going to go out on a limb and mentor you in those field conditions, right? You want to go to the range, you want to have a conversation, absolutely, right? But if I'm actually going out there to do the thing with you, I'm very choosy and selective, and having that connection is imperative, right?
Yeah. You know, so this morning I was out with my son and we were checking on nesting boxes.
Yep.
So I've never done that before. There's a Instagram feed. It was pit waterfowlers. You heard of them?
I'm familiar with where like the Pit River Marsh is.
Okay.
I've never checked the nesting boxes, and I'm not too familiar with their organization, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I've waterfowl hunted, ducks, geese, all the rest, but I've never participated in nesting boxes for like wood ducks and stuff. So I thought, well, I'm seeing this thing on social media. They're looking for some help. All right, we'll get up. We'll drive out to Pitt and met up with a group of people. Everyone's got the same interests. They all got the same sort of ideas. They've all got it was a chance for everyone to get together and talk about how their hunts were. And, if I was brand new to this, the amount of knowledge that I would just get in from going out and helping on one of these things without even asking for help, I would learn a heck of a lot.
Absolutely.
And I think if somebody's looking for a mentor, I would look at those sort of things. Your fishing game clubs. What can I do to help out at your game dinner, right? That's not hunting, but you're going to make some connections. Okay, I'll get muddy and dirty and pull out poles and slog through in my waders in the...
Got to work for it.
Right, that's it. There you go.
There's a big difference, and I think that... I look at a lot of the posts on, I try to stay off the hunting forums now. I look at some of the posts I wrote 10 years ago and I'm like, you opinionated 23-year-old, shut up.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too when I read about it.
Fair and valid. Fair and valid. We'll leave it at that. But, there's a big difference between asking for advice, right? Or, but again, talking back to that idea of value, I think there's a lot of folks who are getting into hunting who truly don't appreciate the amount of effort that goes in. And, through that mentorship equation, there's a big difference between, forming kind of a back and forth, hey, I'm kind of developing somebody I want to hunt with, right? If I'm mentoring you, it's because I want to be able to phone you and say, hey, let's wake up at 3:00 in the morning and drive for 3 hours and hunt for 6 hours and then drive home and sleep for the next 18, right? It's not somebody that I want to be, kind of leading to water per se.
Right. So here's the basic do's. You got to work for it. Put yourself out there. Have some skin in the game. Don't always just be there with your hand out. But what would be some of the don'ts that a mentee could do? What are some things that would immediately turn them off from being mentored by yourself or anybody else?
If you start the conversation with, okay, like, where are we going? Can you send me some iHunter pins? Well, probably not, right? Yeah. I'm fortunate in that, living in the West Kootenays, there's so much outdoors at my disposal. I can drive 20 minutes in any direction and not every day, but have elk bugling back to calls. Pretty rad, right? Considering really the full days I would put in day hunts, going up to Region 8, living in Langley, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, because we have so much at our disposal, when I'm taking new folks out, my wife and I's two good friends in Castlegar, they've gone all in, right? They're looking at rifles to buy. They've got their core, they've got their PAL. They're really, I think, trying to seize the opportunities we have with where we live, and it's cool that because of how much we do have around us, when I'm taking those two out, we're kind of learning together. Right. A lot of the spots we went to this fall, I had never been, or had been, but hadn't really invested in. So now I'm like, hey, let's try spot A or B or C or D. As I'm picking up on things, I can sort of, explain what I'm looking at, and we're both learning together. So we're sort of helping each other level up per se, right? I'm gaining knowledge about a different area, and they're just gaining knowledge about something entirely new. So it's really cool.
Have you ever had somebody go and burn one of your spots? Take them to a place, and then the next thing you know, all their buddies are coming out there too.
Probably, but at the same time, I'm not going to share where I go on a podcast, right? But I feel that if I'm sitting to somebody and you can have a conversation, and you either know or you don't. Okay, this person's, they're passionate, they've invested in things. Having a conversation with somebody like that who's like-minded and puts similar effort in. I'm pretty cavalier with spots because let's be honest, right? If I end up talking and I mention the name of a drainage or a road or whatever, and a guy goes, oh, well, all of a sudden we're both benefiting from that conversation. But again, if I can sense somebody is on the taking side of the conversation, then obviously there's going to be a lot less given up, right?
Yeah. So you're down here in the Lower Mainland for another course.
Correct.
What's that course? You started telling me about it. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah,
Sounds
hit
interesting.
pause.
Let's save it.
Yeah, so you mentioned already, I do carry a badge. I'm with the RCMP second generation police officer. And through those family connections and friendly connections with the force, starting my career, I knew I wanted to have a huge emphasis on wellness, right? I wanted to be physically, mentally, and emotionally well throughout my career. And I wanted to learn the skills to pass on to my peers to make sure that they were all, not on the same page, because everybody perceives things differently, but sort of lead by example. But then when I did have a peer that was struggling, I was able to try my best to give them a leg up, right? Not being a clinician, but there's an incredible amount of you can get through just peer support by relatability. So back in November, I had the pleasure of being on a course, which was what the RCMP calls the Proactive Support Response Team. The RCMP loves its acronyms, so
Totally.
PSIRT. And it is a new peer-to-peer model. We're available 24/7 to respond to things such as an employee in crisis for suicide, self-harm intervention, post-critical incident support, or dealing with prolonged exposure to any sort of potentially psychologically traumatic event, right?
Okay.
PPTE, I think, is the other acronym that's been floated around quite a bit lately. So when you are dealing with something, you can't just suck it up and move on, right? We as police officers are no different from anybody else. We take things home. We have to look after ourselves. So by taking that course, the skills I learned, the knowledge I obtained with how to be that peer who, I can't fix you, right? I can't remove the memory of a scene you've attended from your brain. But just to make those phone calls and make those connections or have those in-person sessions to talk about a traumatic event, there's a lot of power in that. And simply knowing that there's peers out there who are looking out for people when the old ways was to suck it up, find a way to deal with it that's probably unhealthy. Very beneficial to have that training back in November. And it's interesting because a lot of the things that I learned and the mandate and how we respond to those post-critical incident or traumatic files is something that I was already doing fairly unofficially, right? If I knew friends of mine, not even in an area that I worked in, had attended something that was unpleasant, to say the least, for me to pick up a phone call and say, hey, you had to deal with something that I wouldn't want to have to deal with. How are you doing, right? How is it affecting you, right? What's your plan for tomorrow? Really basic questions, would never, what was it like? What'd you see? What'd you smell? Those are not questions that are beneficial to somebody after they've just experienced something not so nice. But, and then having a conversation, right? And seeing where it went. And it's always tough, even with people, to cold call and try to have a conversation about an experience that they would probably choose to forget. But it was always left with a huge sense of like, okay, if I was in that person's shoes, I would want to know that I had peers that cared, right? I took some time off a couple of years ago for my own mental health, and the two people that phoned me when they found out that I was taking time off, I will never forget that gesture. And all it was, hey, I heard you're taking a bit of time off. Are you okay? And is there anything that I can do for you?
What did you say?
I said what every Mountie says. Yeah, I'm fine.
That's right.
Feeling inside, not expressing. But overwhelmingly grateful for the phone call. And these are people that I, have been to all kinds of files with who I would trust implicitly. So the fact that they reached out means a lot. And I never held it against the folks who didn't reach out either. That's not a thing, right? Because the stigma still exists, because there are people who maybe are not progressing in their own path to wellness, for them to reach out, it certainly wouldn't do more harm than good, because it's always nice to know that people care. But yeah, I never held it against her. I never kept score of who called and who didn't. I just know that it felt really good to know people were looking out for me.
I got to wonder, and this probably would form some of the training you've done and what you've gone through, the delicate balance between asking too much or not asking enough. Because if you're not reaching out and you're not asking, I mean, there's no impetus for an individual to at least say or know that they're being cared for. They've got support. But if you're reaching out and asking too much, could that not also have the same sort of effect of having to relive these things over and over again? It's like, just get lost. I'm fine. I'm good, right?
Yeah, and I always tread lightly and feel out the conversation because, again, if you're having an acute psychological trauma response to something that you will never forget, you don't know what your trigger is going to be 6 months, 9 months down the road. And also vicarious trauma is a thing too, right? It's something that I knew was a thing, but I always felt that I had a pretty high threshold for, having really frank conversations with friends who had been to files that I didn't go to and just talking shop essentially. It's a tough balance because there's a lot of things I don't need to hear, right? Even hearing about things that are not nice to hear about. But you also don't want to cut that person off because if they need to express it because they're hurting, right? You don't want to stop them, but it's a very tough balance to strike. In a group setting, with that P-Cert unit, one of the foundational baselines for how that model is moving forward is that when you're doing your check-in phone calls, or sometimes in person, geographically, when appropriate, and if you're doing an in-person session with the team that went to some sort of traumatic file, the one of the ground rules is that, okay, today we're going to get together, we're going to talk about, you're going to acknowledge the event. You went to an officer-involved shooting, for example, at its worst case, right? We're not going to talk about what you did. We're not going to get into the details, what you did, what you saw, what you smelled. Those are things that are better left to discuss with a clinician. But what we are going to talk about is what your role was, right? Were you the first member on scene? Were you physically involved? Were you the backup member? Were you sitting in the office taking a statement and your radio is going off in your ear and you feel like you let your team down because you weren't there? That's a thing too, right? What was your role? How is it affecting you? And now what have you found beneficial to move forward? And being able to then also reel people in if they start going down the rabbit hole of, the sights, the smells, and things like that can trigger somebody else. If I'm the guy in the office who is just putting my duty belt on and my friends are in a fight for their lives, I don't need to know what was happening on scene because that may just exacerbate my feeling of guilt because I wasn't out the door 5 minutes first, right? If I finished my coffee before I started my police car, oh my gosh, why did I do that? There's just certain things you don't need to share.
Interesting.
At some points, right? I don't want to say carte blanche, but yeah, there's certain things better left for a different setting.
So, and you're mentioning, physical, mental, emotional health. I would say out of the three, physical would probably be the most important.
I don't think you can put a value on it. Obviously, yeah, physically you have to go home. You have to be physically alive to go home. That is important. But think about the damage that a mental and emotional trauma can cause, right? That can lead to the physical, right? That can lead to self-harm or suicide, right? And also, too, the body doesn't know whether it's mental or physical trauma. If you have that trauma response, the body just knows trauma is trauma, right? Of course, there's physical pain, but your body knows that you're in a situation that invokes that fight or flight response, and the way your brain perceives it really doesn't differentiate. So the snowball effect of what that mental and emotional trauma can do is can lead to the physical stress responses, affecting sleep and weight gain, and all those things can be a byproduct of that physical. So, I've sort of contradicted myself because, you have to go home physically, but to not deal with the other things would be a disservice to yourself and your peers.
Well, and this is without any research. This is just my own layman's approach at looking at things, trying to mentally think myself into a better mind space. Or mentally use that to help my emotional responses to whatever it might be.
Yep.
It's pretty impossible for me. I don't know, maybe some people can do it, but for me, getting up and going for a walk, going for a run, taking care of that physical thing first and foremost, the other things seem to follow from there and allows me to be able to then deal with the mental and deal with the emotional.
Hmm.
But I don't see it the other way around. I don't see myself trying to work on myself emotionally or mentally and then, okay, now let's go out and I don't see the same cost benefit as I do of let's get out and get that heart rate going. And all of a sudden things start to click a little bit better and allows me to do the other one. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, or if that's an ADHD or a me thing.
It
But
kind of goes back to the power of perspective. And, for example, I've had some injuries. And one of the things that I find is that I have a tremendous amount of difficulty trusting my body, right? Even the prospect sometimes, luckily, I've worked through a lot of these issues that I've sustained from some on-duty injuries, some off-duty injuries, and just the fact that I'm not 15 anymore. Sometimes the prospect of, I'm going to go for a run today, and then I start thinking about, what if I get into that run and I start hurting? What if something creeps back up? It's a pretty crappy feeling, and it really stalemated me a long time with fitness. I like being active, and it's a part of that sort of personal well-being. So physically I'm healed, right? I have had great practitioners that have and trainers and coaches that have gotten me back to the point where I know I can physically trust my body. I'm no longer injured. But then having to work through the mental piece of, hey, you're not injured. You need to start trusting your body, and you need to start working back up and increasing that threshold of physical training to, again, learn to trust your body. So it really feeds back and forth, but the mental piece for me has been huge over the last couple of years. But again, right, if you've ever been through that, then you can maybe identify it with it. And if you haven't, then it's a perspective that is just, it's maybe not as common as the other way around.
So what do you find as an effective method for yourself of dealing with that mental piece?
Having lots of good conversations with peers who are fit, who train. My physiotherapist has been phenomenal, right? Very wise, very smart guy. Does a lot of training on his own, right? And be able for him to kind of reinforce the fact that, like, yeah, I'm working you and I'm treating you to keep the maintenance program, to keep me moving. You're not injured, right? Go for it.
And that helps the mental side.
Yeah, it helps the mental side. If I go him and say, hey, my knee hurts, right? And he does some diagnostic checks and he does what he needs to do. And he says, no, man, like, if it hurts, it hurts. And we can try to figure out why. But diagnostically, go for a run. See what happens. And then I go for that run and I'm like, hey, well, cool.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the next day I'm out and I'm running again, or I'm rucking or whatever. So they really do kind of feed off one another. And then again, maybe, the knee hurts again or something else tweaks. And next thing you know, I'm back to that place of, okay, the physical pain is gone, but I feel like I don't want to test the waters.
I'm still toying with this idea of ignorance is bliss. I mean, it's like, for the longest time, I had no idea that what I put in my body, what I ate, had an effect on how I felt afterwards. I would just eat and maybe I felt a certain way. Like the two things just didn't correlate to me for whatever reason. Or like, my wife's a chef and she's got a fantastic palate. I'm eating stuff like, oh, this is great. She's like, I don't know, don't you taste? And she picks out all these little things. And all of a sudden I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I recognize this now. And now it doesn't taste so great anymore, right? Same thing with physical on my body. If I don't know, I've got the ability, I just turn my head off when I'm hurting in the body, unless it gets really bad and my body stops working. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing, but the same thing for mental health. Like, if there's people around you that are like, oh my God, what a terrible situation you're just in, and I don't know how you're able to go through this, and they're reinforcing all of their perceptions and negativities about it, and maybe you're like, I never thought of it that way. I never tasted those flavors, right? I'm still playing around with this whole idea of ignorance is maybe bliss.
And to a certain extent, you're absolutely bang on. And again, another one of the things that is in that PCERT model when we're phoning and checking in, you're acknowledging that event. But you also want to acknowledge that whatever huge range of feelings or emotions that person may or may not, very importantly, may not be feeling, that's okay. If I'm phoning you to check in and you say, hey, you know what, yeah, it wasn't great, but I feel fine, right? This isn't the first time I've been through this, or I have my healthy coping habits, I have my friends, I have my family, whatever that they have to be okay, then they're okay, right? And you almost want to give them a high five because you're like, awesome, great. If things change, of course, we should revisit this, but I don't want to. We can't be assuming that people should be feeling a certain way, or we shouldn't be assuming that everybody's going to react the same to something traumatic. And we all kind of have our thing. There's certain types of files that may affect me more than my peer, and there's certain things that, vice versa, right? So we just have to acknowledge the range of emotions. But then the other important thing with that too is that if you get used to somebody from a peer support unit calling you after everything that may be psychologically triggering, it's another step in reducing that stigma. Because if you're like, oh, I went to X or Y or Z, I know somebody from a peer-to-peer team is going to be reaching out. You expect those phone calls. If you don't need any supports, then great, right? If things change, then you know where to find us. But then maybe on the 10th file you've been to, and this is going to be the 10th check-in you're going to get, either in person or over the phone, maybe that's the time you do need support, right?
Maybe you're looking forward to it, like, when are they going to call? When are they going to call?
When are they going to call? This is bothering me, and I don't know what I have available for help, right? So the fact that you don't have to look for those answers, you don't have to feel guilty for asking for support. I've been to files where, you get back to the detachment, like, all right, how's everybody doing? Does everybody need a debrief? And you kind of look around the room.
No one else wants
I'm
one.
putting my hand back down, right?
Right.
And so just if you know that those things are in place, you don't have to be the one when you are having a terrible day, for lack of a better way to put it. You don't have to be the one to put yourself out there, right? Because even among trusted peers, it is a tough thing to do.
So if we can recognize, and you said a typical Mountie thing, I'm fine, right?
Yep.
I'd say that's typical in a lot of groups, right?
Yeah, not just Mounties. We didn't patent the term.
If we can recognize that very often people are just going to say, I'm fine. No, things are good, right? Do you guys receive training on like nonverbal, paraverbal type cues that you might be able to pick up on, that indicators that maybe the person isn't fine?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to our training even at Depot, right? When you're as green as it gets and you're wearing your stupid little blue cadet epaulets in Regina, freezing when it's minus 85. Yeah. Body language is huge. And again, this isn't unique to policing, right? If you like interacting with people physically through conversation, or even if you've watched a movie ever in your life, the things that can be portrayed silently are huge. But we still can't force people, right? Like, if I'm fine. I'm good.
Right.
To proke and to prod, all I'm going to do is probably annoy that person.
Right.
So that's when you have to kind of shift into like, okay, are they fine? Well, probably not, right? But all I have to do is trust that if I say, okay, hey, you know what, I'm happy to hear you're fine. I'm going to send you an email, and it's going to have all your benefits, your access to psychological support. I'm going to pass off our email proxy and our phone number should you need to reach back out. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that it's okay to be fine. You don't have to feel anything after this, and just reinforce that however they're feeling is okay, even if they're not being honest. And also, too, with that stigma still existing, it might take some time, and it's entirely possible that they don't know what they're feeling, right? You're upside down and backwards, and you're like, what did I just see? What did I just do? I don't know what?
How do you process it? In line with the whole ignorance is bliss thinking that I've been toying around, I also look at societal perception. I think a lot of times people can have psychological and mental issues based on how they feel others around them are perceiving it, and what the societal. And you think of the age-old Vietnam veterans coming back, and shell shock and PTSD and all the things that were just kind of new at the time, or at least new terms. They weren't being greeted back with hugs and high fives, right? They weren't being greeted back as
tragic,
right?
Absolutely tragic. Because
society's looking, and all of a sudden, all these things that these people left to do that they felt they're doing their best and risking their lives in order to help and do the good thing, and they're coming back, and everyone's kind of turning their back on them. I think that may have a far more detrimental psychological consequence than the actual event itself, because then you start thinking about the event and start ruminating on it and going back through it. And maybe I should have done things differently, as opposed to people that could have been through the same situation or were welcomed back as heroes and thank you so much. And it was terrible, but it needed to be done. I think the whole societal perspective is plays a very big role in this.
Yeah, and I every time I'm down and I have some free time, I try to always get into my old high school and just go to Steve's classroom where he has kids and say, hey, I'm here, ask me some questions, right? Or don't. I don't really care. I'm just happy to go be that sort of community presence, and I did it at home as well, being the school liaison for high school for just about 5 years, and I had interaction with a couple students yesterday, and they had great questions, right? Because, they were asking me, how do you deal with what you see on the job? And I said, man, I'm just a human. I'm just a guy just like you. I'm not, putting this uniform on doesn't remove my empathy or my sense to feel, right? And I thought it would a couple of really mature questions coming from some high school kids, essentially, of, how do you deal with what you've seen? How do you deal with what you've done, right? Have you had certain types of interactions with people, and being able to say, like, yeah, I have, and it was not great, but, these are my supports. And more importantly, here's how you can apply these same things to your life, right? Just because I'm a police officer doesn't mean that you can't apply the things that I do to when you have a bad day at school. Because a bad day is a bad day, right? Some are worse than others, but who am I to judge what they're feeling? So, talking about those, things that I do, staying hobby heavy, being physically active, having an amazing spouse who's my biggest fan and supporter, having friends that I can talk to who aren't in law enforcement is great. And again, if they can apply those things to any aspect of their life or future careers, then hopefully that's a nugget that I've given them that they can carry forward.
Yeah, putting the uniform on doesn't make you superhuman in the same way we all learned as kids.
No.
Wearing a cape doesn't mean you can fly.
Yeah,
right?
There's probably a shattered roof or two that's seen kids that learned that the hard way.
Totally.
But even too, as peer to peer, right? I think that we, when we're interacting with folks after an event, we need to just be completely judgment free. Again, what they're feeling, what they're not feeling, and that it's interesting. You'd ask me. This is where the ADD brain of mine came in, because you asked me what I was just down for now, and I was talking about something I did in November. But trust me, there's a connection.
Yeah.
So the course I was just doing last week was what we call the National Reintegration Program, and I want to preface this by saying. Proactive support response team, national reintegration. I can't take any credit for anything because I was a candidate in these courses, right? People way smarter with way more experience than me have developed these things. All I've done is be on the winning end of learning from these people to help my people, right? Which is everybody in policing is one of your people, right? And every time something tragic happens, you're reminded that just because you didn't know somebody doesn't mean they're not one of your people. So, to have that that piece to be able to see what your peers need after a critical incident in that imminent stage. But then too, with the reintegration program, now employees who have been off work, whether it's from a critical incident, whether it's from any sort of suspension, whether it's from even a matter of pat leave, if they're having some anxiety about getting into the workplace, to have this really open-ended program to be like, what do you need from peers to make you more comfortable back in the workplace? Do you want to go to the range? Do you want to stand outside the range and hear a gun going off? And then maybe you get a little closer, and then maybe you stand next to me when I shoot, so you're reacclimated to that sound. Let's go to the range, right? Are you having anxiety over body image because you went off and you've gained weight? Let me order your new duty belt for you, right? If you've lost faith in your team and the organization, let's do something team building. Let's go to an escape room. Right?
You're mentioning that.
Anything that you need. It was a phenomenal program, and putting that affected member first when we're surrounded by red tape in any large organization, it was a breath of fresh air. And again, the more we're learning last week, the more I'm thinking of friends and partners and peers that I've had, that I'm like, what an absolute tragedy that people that I know and respect who are now retired, could this have prevented them from retiring? If they're done with policing, they're done with policing. But There's so many people who could benefit from things like this, just to put them first in the organization to get them back to work, to look at them as a person and not a tool, to empower them to get back to what they hopefully still like to do.
And this might be a two-part thing, but you mentioned before one of the tools that you use is to be hobby heavy.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So my personal identity of Matt is so much more important to me than Constable Jenkins. I even just kind of cringe whenever somebody calls me that. I always introduce myself as Matt, just about 90% of the time. I love what I do, and let's make no mistake, I love what I do. I don't want to do anything else, and I've had some amazing opportunities with some amazing people. But at some point, I'm going to hand that badge and that gun in, and I'm going to walk out a door, and it's going to be done, right? And somebody, hopefully, we've got our resource levels up a little bit, so hopefully there's somebody taking my place the day I walk out that door at the end of my career. And that organization, the gears are going to keep turning, right? So what I'm doing now to preserve my personal identity through being hobby heavy and having true passions is a very important investment in myself. A fella who I worked with early in my career, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, he actually took the Corps Examiner course from you. He told me...
Was this just recently?
A year ago?
Year ago, okay.
Yeah.
I ran a class of new examiners through a couple months ago.
No, it would have been longer than that. I want to say within the last 18 months.
Okay.
Probably within a year to 18 months ago. Okay. He'll remain nameless, but I hope that, that when I'm sharing, I hope he hears it, and I hope he puts a smile on his face, because again, the impact he's had on me is huge. He says, there's a lot of similarities between you and I. You like to shoot. You like to train. You are so keen on learning everything that this job has to give. He says, but hey, here's another piece of commonality. We both love hunting. I was a guide. I guided for years. All I do now, the closest thing I do to hunting anymore, and the closest I've done to hunting in years, is shooting animals on the side of the road when they've been hit by a car. Don't be me, right? Fight for your hobbies and fight for your friends who are not in this organization, because when that day comes that you have a terrible day and you need to take some time away, or you're floundering a little bit, you need to have that identity and those connections, because that will reinforce that there's more to you than the uniform you wear.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yep.
See, when I first looked at that, being hobby heavy, my mind originally went to a hobby that is going to be tied in with some sort of social aspect outside of perhaps what you're doing, but it doesn't necessarily have to have that social aspect.
It certainly helps, going to Red Mountain and riding the chairlift and the singles line all day. I'm skiing, so I'm having fun. But anything you do with close friends is 10 times what it is by yourself.
You see that Harvard study, the 80-year study, where they log people from different regions, different ethnic backgrounds, different nationalities, different genders, right? And they try and get this. It's the longest study on happiness that's ever been done.
I haven't. I'd be interested to see it, though.
Okay. The end result of that was the number one predictor for happiness in people across the entire spectrum was strong social connections.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, and it boils down to how integrated are you with other people, and do they have your back? Do you have their back? Are your relationships just likes and hearts and thumbs up on Instagram, right? Or are they sitting down face to face and having some real conversations? That's your number one predictor. Are you able to have strong social connections? And I'm reading this study, and it's got a comment section, and the huge number of people that say, I wish I had a connection. I wish I had somebody else I could reach out to. So many people. I don't have a good friend that I can talk to.
It's sad to hear, right? My friends have made me who I am. I've got incredible friends. I don't feel worthy of their friendship most days, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in this world. And it's my best group of friends came from high school. I met my wife in grade 9, and now most of her friends are now married to most of my friends. So it's unique, but. Yeah, the fact that, like I said, 19 years ago was the last time I rode the woodlot in Maple Ridge with my best friend Dan and Steve, who I'm staying with Dan this weekend. We still hunt together, and he's still my best friend. is awesome, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Not to discount the friends I've made through work, because I have incredible peers, and there are people that have truly turned into lifelong friends that started with policing. But yeah, I cherish those old friendships are irreplaceable.
When you hunt, do you typically solo hunt, or are you hunting with others?
Hunting with others.
Size of the group?
It varies. Like when we go on our almost annual elk trip, it could be 8-10 guys, but we're not all hunting together because,
right.
I mean, there's something to be said for sounding like a herd of elk, but it's just not productive, right? Kind of my tagline is, when I'm hunting alone, it's for participation points. It's me looking at, okay, it's a nice day. I only have, how many more Septembers do I have in me? Lots, but not a lot at the same time, right? I just need to go do something, right? I need to go drive up a road, hopefully not come nose to nose with a grizzly bear. And if I see or hear critters, great. But if not, well, I can watch YouTube for the other 11 months out of the year. This month I need to get after it, right? But I'm doing it for the sake of doing it. But again, when you're sharing that experience with your friends, again, like we've talked about a couple times already, that's truly what makes that experience more special, right? And again, my desire to go skiing and mountain biking alone, the same thing. I'm not going to pass up a nice day. But when you're hooting and hollering down a trail with friends like we were this morning, it's just, the smile on my face is authentic, right? You can't replicate it.
So the positive mental health aspects that you get from being in the outdoors or from hunting, where is that derived from for you?
Just doing something that I have a tremendous amount of passion for, right? And passion at the most basic level of just out there learning, being present. I think that's why hunting is one of the reasons. There's a million reasons, but one of the reasons why I do appreciate it is that it forces me to be present. And it's interesting hunting with folks because, again, being ADD and having my brain doing 90 things at once, people have said, like, they watch me when I'm walking through the woods. I start hunting and I slowly just end up walking as I start thinking about everything else but actually hunting. And next thing you know, I'm trampling around, not being quiet, not looking around. And then I just snap myself back like, hey, dummy, we're here for a reason, and it's not to go for a walk, right? Let's be present. Let's look and have that, just be present. What
style of hunting do you typically find yourself defaulting to? I know some people love to still hunt, and some people just love to lay up. And what do you find? Some people just drive the logging roads, right? And not looking down on or up to any of these, but everyone's got their style. What do you find is most effective for you? And then what do you find is most meaningful for you?
The harder you work, the more you feel like you've earned what you have come home with, or not. Even if it's just a memory, you're still coming home for something. There's a time and a place for everything. My in-laws have a cabin up in 330, so that'd be the Clinton, Loon Lake, Cache Creek area. And a lot of times hunting there is driving, because the terrain is, in my opinion, obviously this isn't fact, more productive just to see a lot of ground, right? Sure. You've had some fires, you've had a lot of hunting pressure. So for me, walking through the woods and rolling terrain, that's when I get bored and my brain wanders, as opposed to, again, driving and covering ground. It can be more productive, but I also get terribly bored of that. 2 or 3 days in, I'm like, I don't want to sit in the driver's seat anymore. I love mountain hunting. Which is really funny, because my first couple of years of hunting, when I was still, let's say, building some grit, the last thing I wanted to do was go uphill. I'm like, you're not dragging me up that hill. The more colorful expletives in there, but there's a story that still hangs over my head that I will never be forgotten among certain circles about the first time on my first elk hunt.
Okay, let's hear it.
Dragging me up a hill was a difficult task.
Kicking and screaming the entire way?
Yeah, not quite. I was 19 years old, so not quite kicking and screaming, but I wasn't happy about it. I didn't know what I was getting into. And now it's not to say that if you're not physically exerting yourself, it's not worth doing. That's not the point I'm making at all, because there's a lot of people who physically can't hunt that way. And for me to discredit their experiences would be incredibly selfish and just incorrect. But back in, November, I had, a weekend away. I was down here for that course. We left and we went up, drove up in the interior for 4 or 5 hours. We hunted all day on Saturday and Sunday morning and drove home. And all we did was just find the nastiest places to hike into. And it's what we did. And I loved every second of it. Right. From a productivity standpoint, going to places that other people aren't willing to go means you're probably going to see more critters too. But the places you end up when you're suffering and dying and you're going uphill, and then you look around and you're like, yeah, this view is worth it. And the story, of course, is something special.
I remember years ago, I was probably griping about something. A friend of mine who's offered a lot of business advice over the years, he's run a lot of very successful businesses. He just looks at me and laughs. He says, Travis, one thing I've learned in my life is that nothing that I've received that I can deem as worthwhile has ever come easy. And I think that just kind of sums it up for me. It doesn't necessarily mean physically exerting, but without effort, you don't have that same reward.
No, you don't feel like you've earned it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't anyways.
I agree.
That's not to be said that I'm not going to pass up an easy opportunity if it presents itself sometimes. If I'm driving down the road and there's a legal elk there, then I'm not going to have to sweat and cry about to get to.
100%.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Right.
But at the same time, I've said too, that experience would be a little bit lacking too, right? Going to take it if it comes up. But, when I look at the effort I put in other areas and come out unsuccessful, I guess it would be kind of ironic if all of a sudden I see something that I can't pass up standing in the middle of the road, but it's never what I count on and it's never what I'm looking for, right?
Where'd you get that hat?
So my trainer, she ran a gym in the West Kootenays.
Yeah.
Her partner is now starting to make some hunting content. I'm a sucker for supporting local, and he said, hey, you want a hat? I'm like, sure. I'll wear it. So here we are. So he's no official affiliation. Wearing it isn't a plug. It's just because it was the hat that was in the car. And he's got horses, and he, basically wants to document some hunts and do it from the lens of between the ears of a horse, and also being a BC resident hunter, doing it DIY. Because I don't know about you, but I don't personally know many resident hunters who are completely self-sufficient with horses without, again, using somebody else. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he comes up with. And again, back to kind of the mentorship piece, I was able to take Min and her partner Brad to the range. And, Brad says, I've been hunting forever, but I've never been really much of a shooter. Min, I just did her core last year. She's just got her pal. She got a Tika for Christmas. And I said, cool, let's go to the range, right? Let's kind of get you set up for success. And when you shoot long enough, you learn a thing or two along the way. So to be able to go to the range with them, I had a ton of fun, and we spent a couple hours and went from, here's how you set your rifle in sandbags and here's how you position yourself behind the gun, to watching Min hit steel consistently at 300 yards away, which some people are like, well, that's a chip shot. But remember where you started from. Even 100 yards is a long way at times, right? So pretty cool, right?
So that's Forged in the Wild.
Yeah, Forged in the Wild, that's Brad's, I guess you could say, side hustle, passion project, however you want to put it. And
because I've seen it popping around a little bit. And I just figured I'd get a little backstory. I figured you were wearing it for a reason.
No, genuinely, no. It was either that or the faded RCMP hat that's sitting on my dashboard. And we'll leave that one in the car.
Yeah. It's like that joke. I had a guy in the class years ago. I remember I was teaching, and I like to start every course off with introductions, right? I want to see a person's background. I want to get to know them. What's their name? Why are you taking this course? What kind of experience do you have in this field, right? And I do that for two reasons. Number one, it gives me an idea if I've got a class full of experts in there. I'm not going to be teaching a course down here, and vice versa. If everyone's brand new, then it allows me to gauge it. But it also provides an opportunity for everybody in the class to have the spotlight put on them. Instead of being in there with their arms crossed and sitting back in their chair and looking up and, all right, instructor, how are you going to impress me? Okay. It draws them in, and it creates more of an interactive environment right off the bat. Anyways, I asked this guy, and first thing he says, well, my name's so-and-so, and I'm a firefighter, and then something else,
that
right?
explains it.
And I say, well, you know how you can tell a firefighter, right? And All of a sudden his face just changes.
Just like a vegan and a CrossFitter.
And his face changes, and the class is like, how? I'm like, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you missed the joke.
That's right. But the punchline on the joke, how can you tell a person's a firefighter? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
Yep.
Wearing the RCMP cap in here. How can you tell you're RCMP? Oh, don't worry. Right? You got the kit, you'll tell you. But yeah, probably a good call. Cool looking cap.
Yeah, thank you. If it wasn't cool, I wouldn't wear it. So it was an unintentional plug, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he comes up with.
Is there anything else that we should be talking about?
Talk about core instruction a little bit. That journey for me.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear that one, because I remember when you became a core instructor, because I saw you all over. I'd never met you, but you had your name as your handle on different
HBC,
forums.
yeah.
And you're still up there. Not very incognito in your name change, by the way.
No. It is what it is.
Is what it is. But I remember, man, I was like, who is this guy? And look at the amount of passion that he has. I mean, so passionate. And I remember that was the one thing that struck me when I saw it over and over again going through there. He really has a lot of heart in this, what he does. So tell me about your journey as a core instructor.
It was fairly organic. I didn't even seek it out, to be honest with you. I did my courses from a fella named Ken Archibald out of Cloverdale. I lived in Langley and took his courses solely as a matter of proximity, right? And kind of fast forward a little bit after that, I worked at Wholesale Sports. Ended up, migrating behind the hunting counter, running the hunting section. And I remember Ken had become a customer. He'd be coming buying stuff for him. He'd bring students in and sort of, walk them through purchasing a gun, which is awesome, because how intimidating it can be to be on the other side of that counter, really not knowing much and wanting to get the best product to get you set up. And, at some point he says, I've really come to respect your opinion and bring here, and I come in to see you, and I tell people come in to see you. The way you provide knowledge to people across a gun counter, I think you could do the same in the classroom. But have you ever thought about being a core examiner? Well, no. Fast forward again. There I was in April of 2013, 22 years old, had no business getting my core instructor number, but there I was, and started working with Kent, started teaching the course for him. And what first started with essentially following his curriculum, right? Fantastic teacher, tons of passion. Agreed to disagree on certain things, but his heart was always in the right place. And the jokes, the laughs, the organic connection he had with his students, I always really appreciated that. And as I was teaching and becoming more confident, more comfortable, interjecting my own stories and jokes and things, I really took it to heart of, if you're paying to be here, how can I give you the best product, right? I hated thinking of teaching as a product, but essentially it is a product.
Service.
It is a service, right?
Right.
So that's when looking at the forums, like, if you were sending your 10-year-old son, daughter, and you're putting your faith in that person to set them up for success, how do I ensure you're getting your money's worth, right? And getting a lot of that input and taking notes and really taking it to heart was great. I still pass out at the end of the week, your stereotypical, 1 to 5 rating. How was the course? This, that, and the other. What can we do better? What did you like? Don't teach a lot anymore, but I still read every one.
Would you pass it out before the test or after the test?
I passed it out with the exam, and I said, don't put your name on this. There isn't a spot for your name on this form. Don't leave it in your test package when it comes back to me. I want you to feel confident that this is as anonymous as you want to make it, and I'm not going to review these until I get home. And I've kept every single one. Mostly good, obviously some bad, but such is life.
Did you find value in those? Because quite often I would find people, oh, it was great, oh, it was awesome, but they don't have anything to really compare it to.
If they didn't put handwritten comments and they just did the 1 to 5, they meant nothing to me, because it was usually, 3s or 5s or whatever, right? It's all very perception based. But if I read a comment and it said, whatever, right? I would take it to heart, right? If I'm noticing a theme, if I was, sure, I have my cheat sheet and I'm ticking boxes as I'm teaching to make sure I hit the relevant points, but sometimes something gets missed and you're going, oh, this came up on the test and I really don't think you covered it that well. Mental note, cover X or Y or Z better because you're noticing that trend. So I'd say kind of 50-50. but enough of a benefit that I continued to do them. And then, yeah, so that was my journey of teaching core. Had a huge passion for it. The thing I found though is working with Kent. He had a classroom, all kinds of mounts on the wall. You know, you could point around the room. This your birds. Here's your any critter you could want in BC. It was there.
Yeah.
Moving away, trying to do my own thing. Not enough business where I am to lease anywhere and do it full time. And honestly, with the job, probably not something that I really could have done with the same degree of passion.
Right.
So to go to rent the conference room, having contracting out to educational facilities and basically doing it out of a couple of Rubbermaid totes, bringing in some antlers and some dead heads that have been acquired and donated. It wasn't the level, it wasn't the quality of product that I was used to. So really quickly, my passion to do it just dropped off, right? So I love doing it. I love providing it to friends, to family. If you want to challenge the exam, we'll do it. If I have a group together and I have the right venue, I've done it at a couple gun clubs, which, if we've ever been in a gun club, clubhouse, they're rustic, but it kind of lends back to, again, you've got the scuzzy old faded mountain goat on the wall and stuff. So at least there's stuff to point at, right?
That's right.
I enjoy classes like that. But just, to go to the Best Western and say, I need your 25 seat banquet room. Nah, no interest really.
I hear you.
And yeah, I was lucky. Kent and I, for years, we got to go for hunt. But of course, with us teaching, the fall was the busy time. Yeah.
Did you ever hunt with him?
Once. Yeah.
Okay, good.
After years of when he was away, I'd be teaching. When I was away, he'd be teaching. So finally, the stars aligned back right before I went to depot. So really, when our paths in life were diverging, ultimately permanently, I was able to get away for a weekend with him. We got a 4-point, and at all the hunts I've been on and the amazing memories I've made, that full circle piece was a memory I'll cherish forever, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
I remember one year, Kent put out an advertisement, and it was like a full-page advertisement. Either
I know the one. I know where this is going.
You know where this is going? I think it said voted number 1 in BC, and I remember calling him up. I'm talking with him like, where the hell were you voted number 1? What was this whole thing about? He's like, well, I don't know. My mom said I was pretty good or something along those lines.
It's probably me and Kent BSing after a class. Well, we think we're pretty good at this. Let's say we're number 1. Who's going to say no? Well, hi, Travis.
That was so funny. I'm like, what is this voting thing? I don't get this, right? I thought that was funny. Yeah, interesting the community and the industry. It's different than I see in the States.
Yep.
In the States, you go to Marty Hayes' school, Firearms Academy of Seattle, and he says, here's what I do, here's why I do it, here's why I think it's great. But you know what? There's other people in town. Why don't you go down the road and go to Thunder Ranch and go over here? And you know what? If you find something that works better, come back to me and then let me know, and we'll see if we can integrate it. There's this sort of brotherhood or camaraderie that we seem to see that's really prevalent. Here, what I've seen in Canada is there's a sort of this prestige that people think they have. I took a 2-day course. I got a firearms license, right? I got my hunting license. And look out if you're an instructor. Now you're really special, right?
Yeah.
And they're oftentimes, not always, but a lot of times, there's sort of a dog-eat-dog. Maybe it's a lower barrier to entry industry, but the competition, I think, gets ahead of some people. And in order to be competitive, they want to tear down those around it. Because there's 2 ways you can have the tallest building, right? Build the tallest building.
Knock everybody down.
Or knock all the other ones down. And that knock them down attitude that I've seen time and time again, I don't see the same in other industries. And maybe that's just business. Maybe that's how everyone operates. But I've looked at it, and I look at it as an industry that hunting, everyone's like, oh, they're trying to take our hunting rights away. Firearms, oh, they're trying to take our guns. And they're feeling attacked on all these different angles. And I don't know if it's sort of, this is how we even the playing field is this, the mountain hunters will look down on the truck hunters. The black rifle shooters will look down on the muzzle loaders or whatever it might be. But that sort of mentality I've seen lot.
Nobody wins.
No, they
Yeah.
don't. And I've seen it a lot. And that was part of the reason why I started the Silvercore podcast, because I reached a point within my business where I just saw negativity over and over and over again. And I thought, should I look at getting into a different industry? Or is there a way that I can bring some positivity into a realm of what I know and what I love? And so that whole aspect of trying to bring positivity and growth to others, and I've just broadened it out into all of my different ADHD kind of interests. I don't know. It is from an instructor, from your perspective, is that what you've seen as well?
I think I remember when I was teaching a lot, my sense of competitiveness wasn't coming from the place of I want to be the guy, because that's silly. But I took a huge amount of pride in just being, I guess, grounded in my approach to instructing. And I say it, anybody who's been around me for a while, and I've imparted some knowledge on, I say, don't trust any one person's opinion, including my own, right? If I tell you something about maybe a piece of glass or a gun or a particular hunting thing, go and test it and validate it and pressure test that against other people's opinions, right? See if you notice a trend. Am I fighting against and same goes for, again, any instructor, any person, again, but there's some obvious exceptions to this, people who are true savants and artisans of their craft. But yeah, there are, validate people's opinions and, pressure test what you're hearing, right? And again, but this goes back to, again, me trying to be grounded in my approach. If somebody comes to my class and says, what gun should I buy? And I said, well, you got to get yourself a 264 Win Mag, because that's my preferred rifle. Anybody who knows anything about the 264 Win Mag is going to be like, no, don't go buy one of those. I will never buy another one again, but I love the gun I have. But because I love it, it's just not the right tool for the job for most folks, right? So being able to separate your bias or your preferences to what meets the needs of the individual is something that I took very seriously. And I guess it started from working in a business selling those things to say, well, this is what I shoot and here's kind of my preference and here's what I'm doing. But let's look at things that may fit the bill for you a bit better, right? So kind of I sort of took ownership over giving that high quality product and not displaying a lot of bias or being grounded enough to look at other people's experiences or what they needed, which may not be what I needed, and be able to say, okay, this is what I shoot, but this isn't for you. This is maybe what you should be doing or buying or trying. But at the end of the day, no, like nobody wins by knocking anybody else down, right? And to sit and have a conversation with you of what I've learned and what you've learned, and there's tremendous value in that for everybody.
It brings to mind, I remember when I was kind of getting into mountaineering, just like hiking, and I'd rock climb, and I would be out in the mountains, I'd do stuff, but not from a serious sort of mountaineering standpoint. And a friend of mine just got out of the British Army, and he was working with Special Forces, did a SAS selection a couple times, and so I'm like, I better get myself kind of sorted out before going out and doing some hikes and getting into the mountains with him. He's now a full-fledged ACMG guide and doing well with that. And I started asking around, what are the best boots? Like, I need a good pair of boots, right?
The ones that fit you.
Right. And they say, oh, get some Danners. Danners are the best, right? And okay, so I go buy some Danners. And remember the first hike we went out, and I learned two things. Number one, boot recommendations, like a lot of things, are very, very personal. And what might be best for that person definitely wasn't the best for me. And my feet took weeks. I was in flip-flops for weeks afterwards, because they were just when I was pouring out the rain, it was all red and blood coming out. It was so bad. But the other thing that I learned on that one, which I thought was kind of interesting, which ties in with this mental health thing as well, that is kind of the theme of what we wanted to talk about, was, okay, this guy, Special Force, working with them, tough guy, I can't complain on this hike. And I'm like, my feet are bleeding, and I know this short way into it. And this is a long, long go and cold. And anyways, there was me, him, and one other fellow. And this other fellow, I remember at one point, he's like, oh, I'm kind of hungry, or I'm kind of cold. And he's like piping up, and I'm like, whew, I sure as hell wouldn't be saying anything, right? I don't want to look like that. And this guy turns around and says, okay, stop. administrate yourself. And I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting, right? He's like, just brew up some tea, right? Fix your socks, fix your boots, right? Get a jacket on if you're cold, right? And so I'm quickly, and I was a little chilly as well, and it was freezing weather out. So I'm putting my jacket on, but it's because this other guy put his hand up, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, the dark place that my head was in, as I'm hiking up and cold and hurt and in pain, I'm feeling. It's not so dark. I'm in pain. My feet hurt and everything else, but I'm not going into hypothermia anymore. And this whole approach of not trying to be the tough guy, stop, administrate yourself, because we're in it for the long haul, right? And that little piece of information, which other people may have picked up in their youth, and I didn't pick up until I was in my 20s or whenever that was, I've tied over into my physical health, into my mental health. Okay, I recognize something. I'm going to stop. I know where I want to go. Quick admin, back on the road. Here I go.
Yep.
2 things I brought up out of that one. So I agree. Don't trust just because one caliber works for you and you loved it. It's not going to work for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, and guns specifically are one of those funny ones where if you're asking me questions long enough about, gun A versus, or caliber A versus
You'll contradict yourself.
You end up contradicting yourself, and not accidentally, and not because you're flip-flopping, just because if there was one that reigned supreme, then why would we have a new one every week?
That's right. Ron Spomer would be out of work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is it. It's the one cartridge
this is the one to rule them all, but that's what we hear every week.
Right. Yeah. I love it. I saw you writing something down there.
Just a closing comment, just on the topic of mental health, but we'll leave that be till when we're wrapping up.
Well, is there anything else we should be talking about?
I don't think so. I've got tremendous friends. Hunting's been tremendous. My career's been fantastic. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm feeling very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to put myself in a position with developing instructor profiles and all these courses to really do the work to increase, the odds of physical, mental, and emotional survivability of my peers, and putting myself in a position where that is becoming a huge passion of mine, to see people be successful, right? From, the firearms instructor realm to having the post-critical incident to getting them back to work. There is a lot of that full circle. Ideally, I would never have to, use a lot of those skills, but being able to hopefully impart knowledge on people in different realms is amazing. And I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to. And yeah, that's just it. And again, on the topic of mental health, the resources out there, wellnesstogether.ca is one that comes to mind for everybody. If you're in the RCMP and the Canadian Forces, there's a lot of specific ones that I won't go into because we have a very diverse audience, but I'm really hoping that something I've said identifies with folks, and whether it's mentorship or mental health or anything. It's just, I hope people find value in this, because that's the game.
I'm going to put links to all these things that you've talked about in here in the podcast description. I'll put a link to your social media if people want to reach out. And
I'm pretty boring on social media.
But Matt, I know this is our first aired, second recorded. I'm looking forward to our third recorded when we do that after this one airs.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for being on the Silvercore podcast.
I'm humbled to be here. Thank you very much.